top-tier racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It's back after a short break to recharge the batteries. Just Send It returns for a third season, and it's going to be more of the same. All of that wild and crazy action we love will resume as we get set for round one. And you know what I love? Every week is different. A new car, a new track. Heck, we get different drivers turning up each and every week as well. So what have we got today? Well, it's basically an Aussie racing car. It's the Legend car, and we're going to let them loose around the Tsukuba circuit. 40 minutes of racing, a mandatory caution, pro drivers versus the sim racers. It's going to be fun. It's all live right here on the home of Australian sim racing at SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones. I'm joined in the box by Lachlan Mansell, who returns for another season, and Jay Kennedy, who I think is pushing some buttons behind the scenes. And Lockie, we love this series. It's an opportunity to just let off some steam, have some fun, and put on one heck of a show for those of us watching. But here is Tsukuba. It's only going to be more frantic, because this track, well, it's certainly not a big one, is it?
Good evening, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. Great to be back on commentary for Just Send It. And I've had the opportunity to call these Legend cars in real life here in Australia. And what I can tell you in these cars is about these cars is that they are super twitchy, powered by 1.2 litre Yamaha motorcycle engines driven through a sequential gearbox, but they have short wheelbases, they have narrow tracks, and they have quite hard compound tyres, so they'll really keep the drivers on their toes tonight.
Yeah, they certainly will, and well, I tried to crack at these a few minutes ago, and I can tell you they are incredibly twitchy on entry, middle, and exit of the corner. You've got a pretty decent sized back straight here. It pretty much just goes the entire length of the circuit, and it's going to offer up a bit of opportunity too for a bit of slipstream to come into play. They're quite low powered, these things. They're using a Yamaha engine, so when you've got such a low powered car, the slipstream effect is often amplified, isn't it, Lockie?
100% right, and we see that in real life racing with these cars as well, that they tend to race in packs. We tend to see lots of chopping and changing of positions, particularly on circuits that have got long straights. But the other thing about this particular circuit layout, yes, you've got the long straights, but you've also got some quite fast and flowing corners. And as you discovered in the qualifying session a bit earlier on, Ryan, when you cut a few laps, once you lose the rear end of one of these cars in those fast and flowing corners, it lets go very quickly and it doesn't give you a lot of feedback before it's about to let go. So again, something that's going to make the drivers have to keep their wits about them to keep these cars on the straight and narrow, as it were.
Yeah, that could be down to the car, could be down to my lack of talent, and I think the car definitely plays a part. That's good about sim racing, isn't it, Lockie? We remarked at the time, you wouldn't see this in real life. Mark Scaife jumping into the car while the drivers are out on track qualifying to get a feel of how it's driving. So, one of the unique features, and sim racing, at the moment, it's the only racing we can get right now for well, we all know why, but it's good that we can keep doing this, because this provides some reprieve, and who knows, we've seen in America big events already happening. We'll hopefully see some in Australia and get a bit of exposure for sim racing, because some great liveries out there, because right now this is the premier level of motorsports and esports right now.
Well, obviously with the cancellation of a number of international championships, including the Formula 1 season, which has been postponed, we saw the Australian Grand Prix cancelled at late notice on the weekend. A number of very top-level drivers have made the transition across to sim racing. Now, a number of those were already quite avid sim racers, as it were, but they've taken the opportunity to get more involved, seeing as real life motorsport competition is temporarily on hold. And one of the hallmarks of the Just Send It series is that this is the series where real life racers who are at the top of their game have the opportunity to compete against everyday folk who just like to jump on their computer and do a bit of racing. And we do have a few big names from the real world in the field tonight, as we typically do a tracks for the Just Send It series, including former Porsche Carrera Cup Australian champion and current Porsche Super Cup competitor Jackson Evans.
Yeah, good to see Jackson Evans jump in here. Porsche driver over in Germany at the moment, and odd hour of the day for him at the moment, I suppose, to be racing, but see what he can get up to in the pack. Let's go have a look at how they're going to line up for this one. Haven't got too long. It's going to be a standing start. Job Stewart and Blake Purdy, front row for Pursuit Sim Racing. Jay Hansen lines up third ahead of Brenton Hobson. Ben Snell, Mitchell McLeod on the third row of the grid. Top 10, rounded up by Gary Hamilton, Jordan Caruso, Hayden Dobman, and Chris Owen.
Outside the top 10, Wayne Burke ahead of Emerson Harvey, Justin Ruggia, Jackson Suzlin Harlow, who's been a prolific race winner in Just Send It, Casey Mann back to Justin Howe, Will Rogers, Todd Atkins, Will Newell, and there is Steve Owen starting out of position 20.
21st belongs to Ivan Vantagiato out of Tommy Harradine 22nd. Josh Morris starting for 23rd, Cohen Atard alongside him. Row 13, Tyler Howard and Lockie Hughes. Sam Stride and Jackson Evans. There he is, 27th and 28th. 29th and 30th will be Jaden Weisneck and Christina Nazarick. The rest of the drivers will scroll through or are scrolling through on your screen. 52 people in the field for this one on a track that is just 2 kilometers long. The green flag's in the air and we're underway. And a good start there for Job Stewart. Immediately moves over to cover off, but he can go back to the racing line as Jay Hansen having to defend from Brenton Hobson. Can they all make it through turn number 1? Slipping and sliding a few drivers so far. Oh, nope, there they are. There they go. Someone's on the roof, and hey, they landed it on all 4 tyres.
Actually, I'm quite surprised that we didn't have more drivers caught up in that incident at the first corner, because that happened right in front of the field. There was some very good evasive action from some of the other drivers that were coming through to avoid getting involved in that tangle, but the battle is on for the race lead. Job Stewart ahead of Blake Purdy. Both of these drivers former race winners in Just Send It as Purdy dives to the inside of Stewart, and that will be a change for the lead. Jay Hansen in there. Brenton Hobson, who was very consistent performer in the last season of Just Send It, would have actually won the championship if we'd been running a point score. He's inside the top 5. The ever-present Mitchell McLeod running in 6th position at this stage.
And another incident further back, that's Justin Howe that's run into an issue. Should mention too, these drivers do have a spare car available to them if they run into issues and damage it. Jackson Evans has had an issue. He's going to have to tow back to pit lane because that car was on its lid. Oi! Corkscrew for Jackson Evans there, and couldn't quite land it.
And he was the innocent victim in that one. He came around the corner and there was a car parked right in front of him and he had nowhere to go. So unlucky there for Jackson Evans as we've got a spin. Around goes Hayden Dodman, gets turfed off the racetrack. Manages to get back on, thankfully, without losing too many positions. He was battling it out with Gary Hamilton in the contest for what would have been position 6 and 7 at the time. And yeah, obviously contacts with Gary Hamilton there, wiped across the front of the 36 car.
And we stay with the replay. This is Tyler Howard heading into turn number 8. Curiously named turn 13 after that. And he too got spun just a few hundred meters earlier. And that looked like a dodgy spot to reach on the track. So this is Ben Snellland in 5th place on the back of Brenton Hobson. Top 5 covered by just 1.5 seconds. As a lapped car comes out of pit lane right into this battle. And that catches out Jay Hansen and Brenton Hobson trying to capitalise. So they're going to go side by side then into turn number 4 as Hansen gets a bit of a push from Hobson. And Hobson's going to get turned around by Mitchell McLeod to his inside. It was Ben Snell that turned him. And poor old Hobson, all told to exit stage left there.
Dear oh dear, so they were battling pretty ferociously for position, and Hobson, that was almost a really good switchback manoeuvre to get up the inside of Jay Hansen, but unfortunately because Mitchell McLeod was right behind him, he got contacts from behind which then tripped him into a spin. Here's another incident a bit further back in the pack.
Oh,
This is
no.
involving Wayne Burke and also Gary Hamilton, who we saw involved in an incident earlier on. So there's already been incidents aplenty just sort of towards the tail end of the top 10 in this race. But out in front, Blake Purdy's got his head down. He's punched out the fastest lap of the race, a minute 3.9, and he has extended the margin to 0.8 of a second over second placed runner Job Stewart.
Gaps are important as always to have some breathing room, but we're going to have a competition caution at some stage in this race. We don't know when it's going to come out, but we can say at some stage it will come out. That will condense the field back up and will produce a very short, sharp dash to the end when it does happen. So keep your eye out for that at some stage. Otherwise, won't be any yellow flags out there. They're completely fielded as well from green to checkered. Don't need to make a pit stop because the tanks on these things are so small. Because they're so light, there's not actually anything we can do to take the fuel out of them.
That's a good point that you make. So traditionally in Just Send It, we have a pit stop each week during the 40-minute race, and that is created by limiting the amount of fuel capacity for the cars to force them to come in and refuel at some stage during the race. But with these legend cars, you can't actually reduce the amount of fuel by enough to prevent them from getting to the checkered flag. So no pit stops tonight. It'll be a flag-to-flag race, but like you say, there will be a safety car that will come out at some stage and bunch up the field.
Speaking of bunched up, 3 wide down the main straight. This surely isn't going to work, is it? Last of late breakers, straight through the middle. Glenn Morris, good move from him. And he's not quite got it done yet in that Cars-inspired livery, who's coming back on the inside there is the 46. Got the inside line for the corner. Bit of banking it looks like on that corner too, Lockie, which we would think would aid the outside line to keep their car there.
Well, these legend cars in America do run on tarmac ovals that do have banking as well. And in fact, one of the characteristics or one of the unique features of legend cars is that you can run them in both tarmac and dirt configuration. And we see it here in Australia where they run on both tarmac road courses and on dirt speedways as well. And it's only about a 2-hour process to change the configuration of the car from one to the other. So it's made them quite popular among people who enjoy both circuit racing and speedway.
Just saw Lockie Hughes lose out to Wayne Burke.
In the fence, Hayden Dodman, he's just gone straight on at unabated speed into the wall.
That is, I think, a technical failure there for Dodman indeed. Unfortunate, because he was having a pretty decent race up and around the fringes of the top 10. So there's a pretty good battle back here for 26th place as well. This is Paul Rogers and Jonathan Bakoff battling away for 25th on the racetrack now. And there's a big old train of cars a few meters up the road from these guys as well. So this mid-pack, Lockie, is not settling anytime soon, it seems.
No, and one of the things as well, because this is a relatively short circuit, it's very easy to go down a lap if you don't keep the pace with the race leaders. So lap traffic, I think, a bit later on in the race will become a bit of a factor as we've got Will Longmore and Dave Oliver, the photographer, battling over positions. Will Longmore coming off the back of a very solid performance in the opening round of the New South Wales XL Series at Sydney Motorsport Park on the weekend in the endurance race. Having a go at some sim racing tonight. Steve Owen, we know that he's always in the thick of the action in Just Send It. Oh, and contact as well. Turns another competitor. That's Josh Morris, who's managed to get through there on the inside. Turning our attention back towards the front of the field. And the battle is well and truly on here for third position because Mitchell McLeod is rapidly catching up to the back of Jay Hansen.
Back here, they were 3 wide. Lockie Hughes has been absolutely dumped and into the fence. He went down the straight. They were 3 abreast. I think it was with Jackson Harlow as well. And Hughes must have dropped some spots to be back there at that point with Jackson. And unfortunately, 3 wide didn't work coming out of this corner. In the middle of 3. And Harlow, well, he tried to avoid spinning it, but in the end, those cars got hooked up and Hughes got turned.
Jackson
he's been turned
Suzel
again too.
Jackson Suzel and Harlow are a bit further back than where we would normally expect him. Normally he's up somewhere near the front fighting for race victory, so he's got a bit of work to do at the moment, down in 14th position as the battle for third spot, and it's actually now second spot, continues. So Job Stewart's in the lead, so something's happened to Blake Purdy because he was the race leader, and that's what happened. So Blake Purdy has spun out of the race lead, and he has tumbled down the order back to 7th position.
Well, that's interesting. What that might do, though, is create a very interesting restart when we get that competition caution, because Blake Purdy's got the pace over a lot of guys out there, it seems, if not all of them. So he'll be coming back through the field, and that will be very interesting to watch. But got a bit of damage to his right rear as well, missing the right rear fender, actually. It's just completely come clean off the car, and doesn't need that. Won't affect the aero too much. You would have thought it's on the back of the car, and they're not that fast anyway. But it does mean that this battle is elevated to the battle for P2. Jay Hansen then trying to fend off Mitchell McLeod. And Hansen driving the TCRs this year, the TCR Australia Championship. He's managed about a qualifying session so far in his career in TCR racing. Hopefully,
Correct.
his sake, he can get some more racing. It's an extremely unfortunate scenario for him, but definitely good, though, to see him get that ride.
He was supposed to be making his TCR debut in the Ash Seawood Motorsport Alfa Romeo Giulietta at the Australian Grand Prix in the TCR Asia Pacific Cup support races, but of course we all know what happened, and we know that they got as far as practice and qualifying and didn't get any further, so Jay's TCR debut will have to wait just a little bit longer.
But again, he's able to sort of relieve some of the angst of that by coming sim racing, and not quite the same, but he has got an Audi TCR to play with should he want it in the service. And back here they continue to battle for around P20. Josh Morris still in the thick of things after that contact with Steve Owen, trying to hold off now Christina Nazarick in behind him, and just behind Nazarick is Sam Stride and Stephen Owen as well. As take a look at this livery then for Christina Nazarick. It's our director Jay Kennedy reckons it's got to be the livery of the night. I don't know. Ooh, sap oversteer there. There you go. That's how twitchy those cars are.
Shows you how quickly they can get away from you and how quickly you have to be able to respond if you start to feel the slide. Here's Tommy Harradine having a moment. This will continue a bit further up the road, and contact which sees Harradine getting fired off the racetrack.
Unfortunate there.
The other car that was involved there.
Looks like Wanzik slowed up on the exit of the corner, but maybe tried to redress and then decided it's not worth it. Maybe. But, Sam Stride making himself a pretty easy target for Stephen Owen. He made his way by. In front of them, Christina Nazarick is right up on the back of Josh Morris now. As they go through 4, Morris locks up, goes wide, so Nazarick will go through and take away that 20th spot. And now Morris, you're going to have to watch out for Stephen Owen coming up behind him, because he's got some pace. He's a bit further back than you would expect. He did qualify P20, but you would expect the talent and experience that Owen has. He should be able to carve his way through this field as he gets into the back of Morris. That's a return serve, because Morris hit him earlier, so he hits him back. Unfortunately, Sam Stride, the innocent victim in that.
Had nowhere to go, unfortunately, and got caught up in a pretty vicious contest between a couple of other drivers. Here's the replay. Oh, you have to feel for Sam Stride there. He was just minding his own business and had nowhere to go.
Yeah, I'm sure if he saw the contacts earlier on between those two drivers, he might have been a bit cautious, but yeah, as you can see from that onboard, nowhere for him to go. And to make matters worse, he's rotated as well off the last quarter now and toes back to pit lane. We were on board with Mitchell McLeod, starting to get ever closer to the back of Jay Hansen. Under half an hour left to go in this race. Competition caution still to come up at some stage. These guys are 2 seconds off the leader, Job Stewart.
So one of the awards that we like to hand out or acknowledge during the Just Send It series is the Best Postman Award, and that gets presented to the driver who makes up the most positions. At the moment, Mitch Martin has come from 37th on the grid up to 12th position. As we see Steve Owen having his own incident this time. Did that one all on his own.
And Josh Morris would have probably had a little chuckle as you went by him, and is now quite a few spots ahead of him on the racetrack. Dave Oliver is on the back of Owen, who I would suggest just found his way by. Might be defending. Will Oliver go for an attack? He will. Owen's off the track there. It looked like. Oh, he's hit him! And a huge hit into the wall for Oliver. Up and over he goes. And no way does it stay there. There it goes. It finally rolls onto its roof. That would have been interesting to stay in that position.
Oh, you have to feel sorry for Dave Oliver. Because that actually was setting up to be a pretty good manoeuvre. Here's a look at what happened. So Steve Owen was just ahead. Dave Oliver was setting himself up to try and make use of that slipstream that we talked about. Dave Owen got onto the grass, and it was as he came back on that he got into the side of Dave Oliver, who then found the fence, and that caused Oliver's car to get tripped into a spectacular spin and cartwheel.
Almost perfectly balanced on that rear bar. I reckon a bit more weight to the underside and it would have stayed there. Beautiful T-pose up on the track, but he goes back to pit lane then, courtesy of the tow truck, the virtual tow truck here on iRacing. Jackson Susan Harlow then sits in front of our favourite postman for today, Mitch Martin, up into 11th place now, looking to make it 27 spots and a spot inside the top 10. You'll probably line Harlow up into turn 1 at some stage. A good run down this back straight will aid him. Might even be able to have a look into the final corner.
Mitch Martin, another driver with some real world racing experience in Formula V and Formula Ford. Has actually raced a real life car for quite a while, but obviously still enjoys to get his motorsport competition fix with some sim racing.
Yeah, indeed, doing a pretty decent job as they make their way out of that final corner. That's a spin for Guy Leach on the V8 Sleuth Esports machine. And that car's rusty. That might be why it spun. It's not working too well for him, is it?
And that's a shame for Guy Leach because he had made up quite a few spots. So, interesting. We thought that there were not going to be pit stops in this race because of the fuel capacity situation that we talked about before, but there's actually a few cars that have come into the pits. Brenton Hobson's just come in. Gary Hamilton we saw in the pits on the previous lap as well. So I'm wondering if, in fact, there will need to be pit stops taken by each car in the field.
Yeah, interesting, because fuel, you can put 16 litres in it, and that will do you about 60 laps. So I was told, by my iRacing at least. So, yeah, maybe they reckon tyres are going to be supreme here. As we see a move back, it's Cruz McVee going backwards, just got overtaken, might lose another spot, probably will lose another spot here. Going to be stuck on the outside for the last corner, the long sweeping right-hander. And up the inside goes Glenn Morris, takes away. Can Cruz get that cut back? No, he can't. Now watch out for Christina Nazarick with a head of steam behind him. Runs a little bit wide, loses a bit of her momentum, and can't get there for turn 1.
There's a good battle at the moment in the mid-pack. Cars that have got different strengths and weaknesses in different parts of the circuit. Christina Nazarick on a bit of a charge as they come down through the tight direction changes through turns 4 and 5. Then you've got a long sweep in the left hand with a bit of banking there at turn number 6. And then into another quite technical section through turns 7, 8 and 9 before you head into another tight hairpin which lands you onto the back straight.
And Nazarick took a lot of the curb or the grass on the inside of that corner. Really lucky not to get a slowdown, but got a very good exit off the back of that penultimate corner. Slipstream not going to work though. Cruz McVee got a much better exit out of there and will capitalise on it down that back straight into this corner. You've almost got to slide the car through there to keep the momentum up. And you can see there, Nazarick definitely sliding a bit too much. Through the grass, rallycross style, gathers it up, keeps it going. Good job.
It was good car control because she had all 4 wheels off the racetrack on the exit of the final corner. applied an armful of opposite lock and managed to get back onto the black stuff without losing too much time. In fact, she's lost virtually nothing to the cars in front. We turn our attention back to Blake Purdy, who was the early leader of this race before spinning himself out of contention, and he's now fighting to hold off Wayne Burke in the battle for positions 7 and 8. Blake Purdy's pace, since he had that spin and nudged the wall, has not been all that strong, so I'm wondering if, in addition to the cosmetic damage to his car, there might be a bit of mechanical or suspension damage that's affecting his pace as well.
There's only about a tenth, 2 tenths, 3 tenths even off the lead of the race that time by in terms of lap time. So that definitely adds up over the course of a race, and definitely for Purdy, probably being affected a little bit by that lack of a right rear on his machine. The car in front of him is a lap down with similar damage as Ivan Vantagiato. See if he's going to play a part in this battle, as Wayne Burke will be hoping he just holds up Purdy here through this tight sort of inside infield section of the track. Luckily, Vantagiato able to keep the speed up and not hold him up. Should get out of the way into this final corner. Oh, Purdy's caught out a little bit there, and Burke senses an opportunity, gives him the chrome horn into that corner, takes it away. Purdy won't be happy about that, and Burke's going to redress.
Bit of a bump and run there from Wayne Burke, but he does the sportsman-like thing and tucks back in behind Blake Purdy. He'll try and have another go at getting that position using a fairer means, you might say. Right in the slipstream as they come out of the final corner, and he'll be very well set up here. Blake Purdy knows it, moves to the inside with an earlier turn in for the next right-hander.
Of course, you've got to be careful. You can't outright just drive down the inside of the track, can you, to defend the inside? Because if you do that, you're basically signing your death warrant for the exits to the corners. Burke would just be able to power by with a much better line. So you can't go all out defensive. You can't leave the inside wide open. You've got to find that middle ground. You've got to be very smart. Defending is an art.
You are right, particularly with these cars. They do have quite modest horsepower, so if you take a line that's too tight on the entry to the corner, you do give away a lot of momentum on the exit, as we see a sideways moment there for Wayne Burke. And that's the other thing as well with these cars, because they are so twitchy, you can give away momentum by making mistakes and letting the rear end of the car get loose on the exit of corners as well. It really is, these cars do teach you how to drive with a very disciplined sort of approach. It really is about minimising the mistakes and not giving away momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Low horsepower means that you have to keep the momentum up. Wayne Burke did a great job of it there. Gets to the outside, just about, of Blake Purdy for turn 4. Going to try to go around the outside. Can't find enough speed there, so tucks back in behind. But Purdy definitely on the defense now. Wayne Burke all over the back of that number 9 machine as they come through the infield section and out towards turn 10. Not close enough for a move, but just look how confident Burke is in the brakes. That's where he seems to be finding all of his time, is in those braking zones.
In the braking zones, and also by having the advantage of the slipstream that he's getting from Blake Purdy. Blake Purdy's last lap time around a minute 5.5 compared to a minute 5.1 for our race leader Job Stewart, who has an advantage of 2.5 seconds over Jay Hansen. He's just steadily extended that margin. Top 5 cars separated by about 7.5 seconds as Will Newell goes for a spin on the exit of turn 1.
Purdy again defensive into turn 1 there. Will Burke try to get to his inside. He's on his rear bumper, pushing him on the approach to 4. Did he push him wide? Not quite. Gets the nose to the inside. That was an inch perfect stuff there. Couldn't keep the car there. And he went on the wrong side of the track for this part of the circuit as well. It isn't actually that very easy of a track to make an overtake on. It's quite tight. It's very twisty. It's hard to get a run to get to someone's inside. And when you do, you actually find yourself on the wrong side of the track for the next corner and losing out.
Oh,
Purdy. Hui.
Mistake from Purdy this time. Got very loose coming out of the final corner. Wayne Burke closing with the slipstream. Goes to the outside of Blake Purdy for the run into turn 1. Can he go the long way around the outside? If he can get the overlap, then he'll be in a very, very good position.
Contact!
contact coming out the last corner, switches back to the inside. Wayne Burke, he'll be on the inside for turn 1. Blake Purdy tries to hang tough around the outside. They'll go side by side through this corner. Still side by side. Blake Purdy with the inside for the next left-hander. And I reckon Wayne Burke, no, he doesn't get the position because Blake Purdy's still on the inside and they make contact. Great racing, great exchange.
Yeah, fantastic. And he's still trying to keep his nose there. Can't quite do it. Wayne Burke finally completes the move, but it's not quite done with yet because Purdy's still within striking range. If he wants to launch one up the inside here, which he does, goes to his inside then through turn 10. Can he get the run out of the corner? A bit of oversteer on the exit. Has to control the car, feather the throttle. That gives the run to Burke, who's able to clear him once more down this back straight. Bit of contact in that battle, but Robin's racing in this series definitely encouraged even sometimes to do a bit of rubbing when they're out there with your moves. It's a laid-back series, isn't it, Lockie? So that's what that series is all about.
And it's about justice ending it, and a bit of lapsed traffic coming into the equation here as well. Number 48 car just ahead of these two. He will sidestep them so that they continue their battle. It's a really good racecraft between Wayne Burke and Blake Purdy because they showed respect for one another. They raced hard, but they raced fairly, and no doubt this battle will continue over the remaining quarter of an hour of this race.
Quarter of an hour to go. Going to see that competition caution come out at some stage. Going to have to be reasonably soon, you would suspect, as all there's a mistake for Burke. This could be another move for Purdy. Again, he just struggles with a bit of traction, doesn't he, it seems? More so than Burke, at least, does Purdy to get that power down. He's had a bit of oversteer quite a lot of times now coming off the corners.
You do have to be disciplined on the throttle. If you try and get on the accelerator too hard, too early, that's what causes the back end of these cars to twitch sideways, and that's what can cost you momentum as they negotiate the final corner. Once again, what you can see is that the front straight's actually quite short as down the inside goes Blake Purdy into turn 1. Wayne Burke left the door slightly ajar. Blake Purdy took the opportunity and pounced immediately.
And immediately defends into 4. And Burke going to push him through the corner, gets into his left rear. More contact between the pair of them, but still they continue to fight and point their cars in the correct direction. And more contact made. Burke now probably unhappy with that dive bomb from Purdy. Wants this spot back. He knows he's being held up by him. He's going to try the long way around. Will he look for the crossover here? Cut down, get that apex and power out of the corner. He tries it, couldn't execute it. And now that offers up a gap of about 2 car lengths now in favour of Purdy.
Good job from Blake Purdy to recognise that the door was left open there by Wayne Burke back at turn 1. And to seize on the opportunity and dive up the inside. The thing here is that even though they're battling so vigorously, these two are not really being caught by the cars behind. They've got a more than 4 seconds back to Mitch Martin, who is the next car behind. Really close once again to return number 1. A bit of nose-to-tail contact, and they'll go side by side once again into turns 2 and 3.
How defensive is Purdy getting into that first corner. Again, overlap. Through 4, this time another nudge, this time it allows Burke to go through. I don't think he's going to redress that one. That was side-by-side contact. He got the nose up there, couldn't quite keep it down, and I wonder if Purdy took too much of the grass there. Hopefully, for this racing's sake, he didn't, and he gets to keep fighting. But he has another look then, up the inside, almost clears him. No, gets put in the fence. Purdy gets told to exit stage left, and he goes backwards. He's now right back in 10th place behind Harlow.
Oh, that's a shame because it had been such a terrific battle between those two up to that point. Let's have a look at what happened. Blake Purdy knew that he had to fight back on the inside of Wayne Burke. We've seen a few similar incidents tonight, haven't we, where the car on the inside just wipes across the nose of the car on the outside and ends up getting speared off to the side of the racetrack.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at these cars here, you can see from this shot actually, they've got a front bumper and a rear bumper that both protrude just a little bit from the overall main frame of the car. Maybe that's the reason why we're seeing some of those incidents. Maybe people are getting spotter calls saying they're clear when they're not quite clear of that bumper yet, and that's what's causing some of these issues.
That's a good point that you make there. It's probably a bit harder to judge the overall length of the car. So when you are running side by side with somebody, you just have to be a bit careful and not move across before you are absolutely sure that there is space to do so. Meanwhile, we've got some other really good battles happening a little bit further up the field, including this contest that's happening for positions 3 and 4. So Mitchell McLeod, who was on the tail of Jay Hansen, let's not forget, not all that long ago, has now fallen back away from Jay Hansen, is in the clutches of Ben Snell in what will be the contest for a podium position.
Snell was 3/10 quicker last time by across the line than Mitchell McLeod. It was a 106.0 for McLeod versus a 105.7 for Snell. So definitely got the pace over him. You want to complete the move before the caution, as that we go back a little bit, I should say, to the battle between Mitch Martin, Jackson Harlow, and guess who? Blake Purdy. These three covered by absolutely nothing. And Harlow having to defend here because he's got two very good drivers lined up behind him.
The recovering Blake Purdy and Mitch Martin. So Jackson Suzlin Harlow made the a bit further down than where we would have expected him to be. He's worked his way up to 8th position, but I still don't reckon that he's quite had the pace tonight that we would have expected. And right now, he's having to drive on his mirrors because, like you say, he's got a couple of very accomplished steerers putting the pressure on.
There's a spin for the 28. That's Tommy Harradine that's run into issues at the hairpin, preluding the back straight. He will lose quite a few spots out of that mishap. Spun by himself or overcorrection and just got collected by the other car coming through as well. Unlucky for him. Just been told by the director, Jay, there might not be a caution. And if there isn't, and I've been telling you there's going to be, you can blame him for that too, because he told me there was going to be one, Lockie.
So we're inside the final 10 minutes and we haven't seen the safety car yet. So here we go. So this is a change for what will be the podium position. Mitchell McLeod relinquishing 3rd spot to Ben Snell, who in the end made it a fairly easy move. I reckon that Mitchell McLeod might have just lost a bit of momentum at the previous corner. We are, like you say, expecting there to be a safety car deployment. But we are now inside the final 9.5 minutes, and we know that when the safety car comes out, it is on the circuit for 2 laps. So if it was to come out now, we get a restart with only a few minutes remaining, which would give us an absolute blockbuster finish.
Well, they did do that at Interlagos at the end of last season. You weren't there, Lockie. You were off doing something in the real world at a real racetrack. While me and Jay sat here at our office chairs commentating the virtual race, and they threw out a caution inside the last 10 minutes, and the finish of that race was pretty crazy.
I'd like to see it. I reckon that there's quite a few drivers with some points to prove in among the top group, that's for sure. And here's Brenton Hobson now. Interesting thing for Brenton Hobson, as we do now have a safety car out. So Brenton Hobson, he was inside the top 10. And then he came in for a pit stop, and we were kind of questioning what he was doing. But if he now has fresher tyres than all of the cars that are in front of him on the racetrack, he is going to be in the prime position to charge forward in the closing laps of this race.
Jay Kennedy, our director for the broadcast, has played God. He's got the magic button in the race here, and he's decided to throw that caution.
So we were wondering why there hadn't been a safety car, and I suspect the reason that we hadn't had the safety car was because the person who had to decide when the safety car was going to be called hadn't actually called it yet.
Oh, damn it, Jay. Well, the good news is we're going to have a blockbuster finish lined up for us today, this evening. Going to be probably 3 or so laps to the end when we go green, maybe a bit more, 4 or 5 even. Do have a laps car in the way between Job Stewart and Jay Hansen. That's Paul Rogers. Not sure whether he's going to get deposited to the rear of the field, get told to wave around, or what's going to happen with him. Stewart, we're hoping he stays there because Hansen won't be able to overtake him until the green flag comes down. Job maybe able to open up a bit of a buffer in the process as we see a car in pit lane. That's Guy Leach.
So a few people I think you'll find here, Ryan, will take the opportunity to pit under this safety car just to get some damage fixed. And what is going on here? Jackson, Suzel and Harlow under safety car conditions has just made contact with another car. I think there's a bit of an awkward situation here with a few laps cars trying to get out of the way and maybe having contact with some of our race leading contenders.
It's unfortunate, but we have the lights out on the Porsche iRacing safety car, which signals 1 lap to go till we go green. We'll restart on to lap number 32 of this race. It will be about 5 minutes to go when we get that green flag, so I think 3 or 4 laps here. Short, sharp dash to the end. Expect Rogers to get out of the way as soon as he can, and the other laps cars involved. This is going to be a very, very exciting finish.
I'd say watch out for Ben Snell as well, because he was on a bit of a charge just before that safety car came out. So he's moved up into 3rd spot, but he would no doubt love to be challenging for 2nd or 1st place once we resume racing.
Yeah, just having a look, at Jackson Harlow. He's up into 7th place. We remarked he was back in 14th, didn't we? At one stage, Lockie. He suddenly found himself pretty decently inside the top 10, and who knows what happens. He might still have a shot at this one too. Justin Ruggier up in 6th. There's a few guys in this top 10 that still have the pace for this one. I think Purdy ran into some other issues that we didn't quite see, because he dropped off that Martin and Harlow battle before that caution came out. But he's still there in 10th as well, so let's see then how they line up off this restart. Going to be a grandstand finish to week 1, season 3 of the Just Send It series. The legend cars and Tsukuba. Job Stewart will jump on that throttle and get us back underway with the green flag now flying. He will lead them across the stripe, and Jay Hansen will look already to get by that lapped car as defensive in the background for the 3rd place man of Ben Snell. Mitchell McLeod trying to go around his outside, couldn't quite find a way through. Had to tuck in behind him.
Good restart there from Jay Hansen. He disposed of that laps car very efficiently, which is exactly what he needed to do. And Ben Snell too getting a good restart as well, but under pressure still for Mitchell McLeod, who's there in 4th. Here's Chris Owen, who's been a bit of a quiet achiever so far in this race. Kept it clean, kept his nose out of trouble and running in the top 5. Justin Ruggier, another one who hasn't really grabbed a lot of attention but has done a very solid job so far. There are some other fast drives a bit further back. We'll look to the names like Jackson Suzel and Harlow and Blake Purdy. They will be looking to charge to the front of the field.
Harlow in 8th place at the moment after that restart. You see this, few cars looking to try and make some moves into the final corner. Brenton Hobson's one of them, going by the lapped car there of Paul Rogers, who's doing a very good job on this opening lap to stay out of everyone's way in that machine that's, I think, a bit crippled by damage, as Hobson now goes on the offensive, goes up the inside of Jaden Wanzek, up into turn 1, takes the spot away. Now in behind Casey Mann, there's a car down on the grass there. I think that's a lapped car. He stays out of the way. Let's go to the leaders though, because they're pretty close now.
Jay Hansen right on the tail of Job Stewart. So this has been a very good first lap after the restart for the driver of car number 18. He's going to put the pressure on Job Stewart. He's going to do everything that he can to challenge for the race victory in the final 3 minutes. But so too is Ben Snell, who's sitting there in 3rd position. So all of our race-leading contenders bunched very tightly together. Now they're looking to gain the slipstreaming advantage off one another, getting into the final couple of laps of this race.
Poor old Mitch Martin has got turned around on that big battle pack further afield of the lead. We'll stay with these leaders though, because this is where the action is going to be as we conclude this race. As Blake Purdy almost getting a hit from Glenn Morris through the last corner. We're watching Wayne Burke try to go on the offensive on Justin Ruggier. Tried to get to the inside, but Ruggier, supreme on the brakes, outbraked him and kept himself out in front in that number 8 machine. Chris Owen lined up just in front of these guys, trying to attack Mitchell McLeod before he gets caught by Ruggier and Burke.
And the last time around, fastest driver on the racetrack was Brenton Hobson. Remember the comment that I made about him and the fact that he's got fresher tyres than everybody else? He did a minute 5.0. All of the cars ahead were in the high fives. So Brenton Hobson, the fastest driver on the racetrack at the moment. He restarted this race outside the top 10. He's up to 9th position.
Progressing very well, but it's going to be a little bit too late for him. A little bit too little, too late. Only a minute 40 left on the clock. Will be 2 laps to go then as they come across the line. And the lead for Job Stewart stands at under a second. The exact margin is half a second. It came down by 2/10 on that most recent lap. So it's not over with yet in this battle for the lead as Rigier again defending. That's Burke trying to go the long way around. Can't find an avenue through there. Again, going to have to rethink his strategy. It doesn't seem like a turn one opportunity. And now I think Rigier is more concerned about attacking than defending because he's got right up onto the back of Chris Owen.
So Chris Owen still holding down 5th position. Rugia, Burke, Suzel and Harlow. The hard-charging Brenton Hobson in this contest as well. Hobson putting the pressure on Suzel and Harlow as they negotiate their way around the back part of the circuit. Hobson driving with a lot of confidence at the moment. You can see how deep he's braking. You can see how early he's getting on the accelerator in that number 88 car.
All tucked firmly in the slipstream as Hobson gets squeezed. 2 tyres on the grass. Switches back to the outside of the circuit as they approach that last corner. Harlow defending as hard and as aggressively as he can as they come across the start-finish stripe and they take the white flag. Hobson still got a nose around the outsiders in front of them. They battle as well. Hobson just swept around the outside of Harlow and he should clear him, and he does clear him off the exit. That was fantastic from the driver of the 88.
And that's a demonstration right there of the grip advantage of having fresh tyres. You can see that Brenton Hobson was so much later on the brakes. And even though he was on the outside, he had much better grip and much better traction. He was able to carry a lot more mid-corner speed without the car getting away. And Jay Hansen, a mistake for the number 18 car in second position. He gives up second position to Ben Snell, and he'll have to be very careful not to lose another spot as well because Mitchell McLeod is right there waiting to pounce. This has been a fantastic performance from Job Stewart. He has led the bulk of this race ever since taking the lead when Blake Purdy made a mistake earlier on. And after a flawless drive, it's going to be Job Stewart who comes through the last corner and wins Season 3, Week 1 of Just Send It.
Great drive from him as Hobson behind crosses the line in style as well. A few battles still wrapping up as they come across the stripe. Harrison Dengate back in 21st, trying to find a way by on Tommy Harradine. Gets to his inside, side by side. They bang doors. Who got it? Dengate got him by 0.02 of a second. That's an awkward spot for a car, and it's about to get even more awkward, and even more so. Well, sim racing, you can do that, can't you? Because once that checkered flag flies, there's not really too many more consequences for throwing your car on the fence. Don't have to foot the repair bill like you would in the real world. And that will conclude this one then. Race 1. Let's go through the results and see how everyone finished here at Tsukuba. Well, Job Stewart then coming home as your victor, the margin of victory in the end, 0.7 of a second, back to Ben Snell in second. Jay Hansen coming home third, ahead of Mitchell McLeod and Chris Owen running out the top 5. Justin Rugier and Wayne Burke coming home 6th and 7th. Brenton Hobson in 8th, top 10 rounded out by Jackson Harlow and Jordan Caruso.
Blake Purdy in 11th position ahead of Casey Mann. We go back to Gary Hamilton, Jaden Wanzek in 14th, back to Josh Morris, Cruz McVee, Mitchell McGarry in 17th, and Harrison Dengate in 18th position. He picks up the Best Postman Award tonight, a gain of 27 positions from where he started. Tommy Harradine was in the thick of the action this evening. Dwayne Preece in 20th spot.
Last lead lap finishers were Kobe Williams, Jonathan Bakeoff, Will Longmore, the final guy on the lead lap. Glenn Morris first car lap down. The rest of the results will scroll through on your screen as we go into the guys that had some big issues in this race and the retirements. But last saw that, Lockie, and just send it's back. And, well, judging by that, it's just as good as it ever was.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this season. If tonight's anything to go by, as always, we just said it, it'll be a different car and track combination each fortnight. We are going to a fortnightly series for season 3 of Just Send It. What a great way to kick it off, though.
Indeed, a fantastic opening curtain raiser to the season. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for round 2 at a track we don't know yet, in a car that we don't know yet what it will be either. Before then, plenty still to come for SimSpeed TV. This week alone, we have 9 broadcasts still to come, and no broadcast could happen without sponsors either. And the sponsors for tonight were, of course, the Melbourne Performance Centre, Motor Simulation, Erebus Motorsport, all returning to support another series of Just Send It. And why wouldn't you? So much fun. We've got, what have we got coming up? We've got Dirt on Thursday. We've got TCR tomorrow night. We've got NASCAR, the Friday NIS series on Saturday, Friday night American time. We've got the VRS GT Sprint series on Friday evening as well. So plenty to come. Make sure you subscribe to the SimSpeed YouTube channel if you want to stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts, and like us on Facebook as well. And don't forget to chuck Just Send It a like too on their Facebook page for some interesting content each and every week. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Lachlan Mansell alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you so much for tuning in. It was a pleasure calling this one, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?